So
All
anyway, here
right,
we are at $100 a barrel oil. Happened quick.
dude, that escalated quickly,
Down
right?
from
We get, I
120
mean,
last night in the pre-market.
I
yeah,
know. I saw 118 print. What a freaking move!
yep, yep. This is the highest we've been since the pandemic. So these are wild times here.
Indeed. Well, the last time this happened, I think, was around like pre-Lehman, right? It was like in June, and then like all the water went out, all the tide went out, and everybody who was naked was exposed, and we had the GFC in September, October.
Yep.
So
Well, this is turning out playing out a little bit different. It's hard to predict. I don't think anybody really knows how this is going to play out. You know, Trump came out a week ago and said this could last 4 weeks. I don't know. It's I think some of the projections are extending that here, given how Iran is digging in. The one thing, when I looked at headlines last night and I saw that they had elected Khomeini's son as a new supreme leader, I just like, no, this is
yeah,
this is not good. I mean, the fact that they're digging in, the
that's
fact,
not what they were going for.
yeah, the fact that they are able to do that and announce it, knowing that he's going to have a target on his head
Yep.
is just not a good sign. It just doesn't show
No.
that they're caving at all. They're digging in, and now there are
Yep.
reports that Russia's sort of backing him up with drones and other things. And you haven't even got the Houthis involved yet, and what else could occur here. And the other thing too is that now U.S. and Israel are targeting their oil storage facilities, which is not good because even if you said, "Look, we got this in control, we're taking over," if in the meantime you've destroyed some of their oil production capabilities or refining capacity, that doesn't come back online overnight.
Yep.
And they were before exporting close to 2 million barrels a day of crude oil. So this is not good. The other thing that's not good either is that you've got countries like Iraq and Kuwait saying they're shutting in production because they don't have the tankers to load it to get it through the Strait of Hormuz. They're saying we're just going to shut in some of our production. I think Iraq said they've shut in 70% of their production. So if and when things do settle out, that has to be produced again. That's oil that's basically been taken out of inventory that you can't replace because you can't turn the wells on and produce them at twice what they were producing before. That oil is effectively lost, and you then hope that once things settle out and you're able to open up the Strait of Hormuz, you start producing again. You don't have that in inventory sitting there to make up.
Yep.
So, you know, this whole situation is not playing out well, at least in the near term. And, you know,
So,
these
Bob,
oil
what about
prices,
the European Strategic Reserve? There was some talk about them
I mean, there's talk about it, but
opening
it's,
that up. Is that a thing? Is that
I don't think that's going to make up for what is offline and not flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, we have SPR2. You really don't want to draw that down unless it's really, really a dire situation. So even if they release oil from from their SPRs, and we did the same, it's not taking oil back to $60 a barrel.
no?
So this is it's a bit of an unnerving situation here because you just don't know what could happen. Whether Russia could get involved, whether other regional players could get involved. The fact is that Iran's still sending missiles. I mean, they're still
Yep.
sending missiles at our encampments in the region. They're still sending missiles at Israel. So, despite U.S. and Israel trying to pick out and see where they're shooting missiles from, we're not able to take out all their capabilities. And I don't know when that occurs and how that occurs. And I mean, there was rumors that U.S. and Israel may have to send in forces on the ground to secure their enriched uranium, which is
Yep.
really not a good situation. So right now it's very, very tenuous. Nobody can predict what happens here. I think oil prices are going to stay elevated for a while. They're not going back down anytime soon. I know Trump wants to say they will. They want to say they're going to provide escorts through the Strait of Hormuz, but I don't think that's happening.
Yep.
You really have to have control of the region, shut down Iran before that oil starts to flow again through that
Plus, the
strait.
more of these bombings and the more, I mean, you're just going to have more and more collateral damage associated with war, and that's just going to embolden. I mean, Ben mentioned last night that we were going after desalinization plants, or Israel was bombing desalinization plants. I mean, you're gonna now you're I mean, that's just dirty pools shutting off their water supply.
Yeah.
And that's just going to piss the people off even more. That's going to want them just continue to back the IRGC to get these assholes off our back.
Right. And the other thing is, we talked about this last week, is I think, what was it, in Saudi Arabia, they hit one of their refineries. The refiners are harder to rebuild and put back online. So once you start out taking out refining capacity,
Right.
you don't have SPR for diesel and gasoline. You don't have spare refining capacity around the world. So even if things then start to ramp back up, if you don't have the refining capacity to make the products, that makes the market even tighter.
Yep.
So that's probably, the bigger issue should be watching is how much refining capacity gets taken out in this conflict that can't be rebuilt overnight.
Yep.
Even if you've got the oil, if it can't flow through a refinery, it's useless.
Yep. What are you looking at? What do you think, Bob or Robert? Mr. Morris?
Oh, no.
Well, you
got the
Steve,
bobbers
you asked me,
today,
you
so-
asked me last week. You said, "Oh, should you be, writing covered calls on anything or taking some profit in that regard?" And I said no, and I'm still saying no.
Okay. Well, that was a good call for sure.
I'm not. I'm just still holding on to the upside here. Now, I said last week when oil was, what was it, 80? I said, look, the upside is definitely skewed more to the upside than the downside. Here at $100 oil, I think in the near term, at $100 oil, I'd take the over versus the under still. So I'm just
At
holding
100
up.
you get 120 print.
I mean, we're
start-
sitting at
Start selling calls.
we're sitting at $100 here.
Yep.
The only thing that brings it down markedly is a stoppage of this conflict of some form. That's
Right. Then that
here.
doesn't sound like it's
That's the
happening.
only thing that then gets companies to feel comfortable and safe enough to start driving their tankers through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yep.
So, on the stocks here, I'm just holding on.
Okay. All right. What are your thoughts, Robert Marson? You've been raising cash, I know, so that's that's
raising
smart.
it in February and into last week, yeah. So that's as much a bottoms up call as it is top down, because there are stocks that fit my sell discipline today. Having done well or poorly, getting paid or not getting paid, I don't marry my winners or my losers. I marry them until they get expensive enough to sell, or either the good way with the P. They P their way out of the low PE or low price to sales universe, or they either way out, meaning they under earn their way into higher valuations. So that's a process that's been happening. There's been a rotation. A lot of the Russell 2000 momentum stocks have started the year really strong. People had good years the first 2-3 weeks of January with total returns with the appreciation, and that's reversed. A couple of my stocks are have come down 20-30% on no news because they overshot to the upside significantly. I have these stocks as 5-year holds, so I didn't trim all of them. If I didn't like the fundamentals, I sold 100%, which we mentioned in different different situations over the past few months. I sold all my MRAM, which was Everspin. I sold most of my TAT. I sold all of my AIP. Arteris, the semiconductor, sold 2 of my semiconductor companies totally. So not a lot to do now.
What about your oil names, Bob? I know you were you own the pipelines. ET was one of them. PAA was another. Do you still own those? Do you still like those?
I think he's asking you, Robert.
Yeah, Robert.
You said
Sorry,
Bob, so I was listening. To Bob.
I know. I got the Bobberts here, so it's gonna
So
be a problem.
I'm holding them. They're acting well. They're not going to the moon. They don't have as much price sensitivity. So small amount of their EBITDA is tied to pricing because they're mostly fee based. But they benefit from a rising oil tide. All the oils. Last year when oil went down, they had a terrible year last year. They went flat to down last year in a good market. So, but the point I want to make. The salient point I want to make on this call is, if you just think about what happened last year, right? With the Trump tariff tantrum, we'll call it the T cubed event, we've got a 20% drawdown on something that was totally in one man's, initiation and hence control to reverse. This situation, is much worse, right, with the real economic impact on the economy globally, and much more risk that it spirals out of hand. And if we get a tail event with this, we don't want to go there, right? So this is far worse than last year. And what's the S&P down? 4%, 5%. I'm looking for a much bigger drawdown before I put my capital back into the market from the things I've sold. So I have 3 or 4 names I intend on buying. I would hope it's as clean and swift as last year was. 5% negative days back to back. I'll take that this month or into next month, and then I would revisit adding. But for now, the cash is sitting there. The longs I missed selling, like my Tetra Technologies, which is an energy stock that's gone down 35% because they announced a flat EBITDA year, even though they have compelling 4 or 5 year growth stories. And, that's one I want to buy more of. It never got to be a full position. But buying something at 4.5 to 5.5, watching it go to 12.5, not selling, and then buying it back at 6.5 or 7 is a little painful too. You know what I mean? It's not very fun, losing a double. But the story is this produced water facilities that they could treat and re-enter into the water stream or use for data center cooling, and that seems to be driving a lot of demand for their facilities, even though they haven't built one yet. They're still, they've done the pilot, it worked, and they're now in negotiations with all the E&P companies to build these 100,000 barrel a day facilities, and I think they get to 1 million barrels a day in 4 years, 5 years, and at $2 a barrel, it's not hard to do the math. That's over $700 million in very high EBITDA margin business. And the whole company today is only $650 million in revenues, give or take. So it more than doubles the company. Plus, they have 2 or 3 other compelling growth stories going on.
So this is WTTR, Robert?
This is TTI. WTTR is safe company. It doubled. I swapped out of that at 11 and change for the TTI at 5. So I like to buy. I would love to buy Select Water back, but my basis there was 7 and change, and I'm not.
Had a great move.
Powell Industries was a company in the power business I talked about circling 2 different times on the show. It went from 200 to 120 and 150. We missed it, and then it went to 600. So now 600 to 500. Oh, I'm chomping at the bit to buy the 500 when I passed last year at 125 or 135. Give me a break, right? It's now 5-6 times sales. I was worried about buying it at 2 times sales because their margins had never been anywhere near today's levels. Their current net margin is higher than their historical gross margin. So people that understand businesses say, "Wow, that's pretty crazy." So, it's there's a lot of names like that. So I'm not going to buy a 20% dip in a name that's goes from 50 times earnings to 40 times earnings because I liked it at 10 times earnings. Bleep that.
Okay. So what else is on your anything else on your shopping list? You said there's 4 or 5 names, and I have the same question for Bob Morris. What's he, outside the oil patch, what's on your shopping list? Go ahead, Robert Marson.
I'm not divulging those names. I need them to go south.
You're gonna move the market with your buys when you buy Robert?
I'm rooting them down.
Okay.
They have to remain nameless. There's a couple of stocks that have done what I believe are transformational deals, and I think it's going to be very accretive and synergistically as well as reasonable valuation. So, in this environment with risk off, if you're taking on debt or issuing equity, the stock market seems to not like it very much. So I have a couple of, and both of these companies I've owned in the past, and both of these companies I've mentioned on the show in the past, in the the beginning days of the show. So I traded them both for 50 to 100%, and they turned into much bigger stocks. But now they're coming down, and again, it's. I wish I looked at my screen, my new buy screen over the weekend, and there's still not a lot on there with the gating factors, the valuation parameters that I plug into the screen. So it's not that there's not that stocks doing well that are down a lot, but none of them are cheap. And you don't get these 2 to 5 outcomes half the time unless you have perfect setup, Steve. And so you can't just force new buys in because you need to produce a name on a TV show. I'm sorry.
Right.
So
right.
It's
right.
I need
We'll
a
wait.
lot more than a 5% decline in the S&P 500 to get a bunch of new names I have conviction in for 3-4 baggers.
So how will we know when you do? We'll follow. You'll mention it on the chat. You'll mention it on the
Absolutely.
show. Both.
For everybody
Okay.
out there watching, you should subscribe and follow us in real time.
Exactly.
Right?
Or follow us on our chat behind the paywall where we talk to each
Exactly.
other. That's probably where you'll find out first.
Exactly. That's where we're from.
How about you, Bob Morris? What's on your? Do you have anything on your list
I mean, I'm watching all my
outside
holders.
the oil patch?
And one named Schlumberger is one I'm keeping an eye on that I could add to my position there. It's pulled back sharply here, but a beneficiary when things have to be all rebuilt and they peel off the duct tape and actually rebuild things. So, that's what I'm watching here. Otherwise, I've been watching Dow and Lyondell climb here. I own those, but I've got some cover calls on Lyondell I may need to roll here. But otherwise, on the shopping list, I'm just watching.
Okay. Yeah, I think you get bounces like we had last night. We were down 2.5% on the S&P, and now we were down 1.5.
Yeah.
So you sell those rips.
Yeah, we haven't had the whoosh yet. This has been very orderly.
Exactly.
Too orderly for the risk in my.
Too orderly, and you got VIX above 30 now, and it's just sit tight. No rush to get back in here.
Yep.
Now the question is, can you still sell stuff? In my opinion, but that's part hope, part forecast. But still, I wouldn't.
Well, I think given the moves you've had in some of these names, there's plenty of room to still
Exactly.
sell.
That's my point.
Yeah. Yep. All right, boys, let's wrap it up. Happy Monday. Thanks for following us on Wall Street Beat. Sorry we're late this morning. We had technical difficulties. We're using Riverside this morning instead of Ecamm. Ecamm was having problems. So wallstreetbeats.com. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. And if you are going to be at South by Southwest this week, I will be there Wednesday through Friday handing out Einstein bars. So if you're at South by Southwest, we're a decent sized sponsor. Come by and we'll give you a bar or two. All right, guys, have a great one.